Part of the problem in our society is everybody's getting their feelings hurt. I'm Zach. This is the Average Christian, a project simply about how to practically live out this relationship with God. We are back in Galatians chapter 2. The last video, if you watched it, was talking about this confrontation between Paul and Peter, this young guy in the faith, or young in the faith, if you will, who's opposing Peter to his faith because of his hypocritical actions and what all he has to do there. He has to summon up this strength because that's not an easy thing to do. Now, maturity. I remember being a kid. I may have mentioned this one other time, but I'll do it again anyway. I remember being a kid and getting hurt. And what's the first thing when you were a little kid? When you got hurt, you usually cried, right? I remember watching my parents or somebody older than me getting hurt, and they would just make a face and ow, that sort of deal. And I thought, man, how grown are they that they don't fall apart? I cry every time I get hurt. I can't wait to be grown and I won't cry every time. Part of maturity is reaction. You're able to endure more. Part of Christian maturity in the faith, is being able to endure more. You grow in that way. It's discernment, but it's also being able to not overreact or react improperly. And I want to show you this because this is one of those things where the silence of the scriptures really speaks out here. Now, if you go back to Galatians chapter 2 and you see this, Paul is talking about Peter, otherwise known as Cephas here, and says that when Peter came to Antioch, he opposed him to his face because he stood condemned, because he was acting hypocritically here. For before certain men came from James, he was eating with the Gentiles, but when they came, he drew back and separated himself, fearing the circumcision party, because they wouldn't like that he was hanging out with Gentiles like that, these people that were lower in the Jewish mind. The rest of the Jews acted hypocritically along with him, so that even Barnabas was led astray by their hypocrisy. But when I saw that their conduct was not in step with the truth of the gospel, I said to Cephas before them all, in front of everybody, like, can you imagine this scene at church? What we commonly call church. Can you imagine this scene and somebody sees somebody acting the way they shouldn't and says, hey, there's a problem here. We need to deal with this right now. Can you imagine the reaction of a lot of people? So he said to Peter before all of them, if you, though a Jew, live like a Gentile, not like a Jew, how can you force the Gentiles to live like Jews? How can you be two-faced like this? Now, what I'm talking about in the silence is when you go on here, he says, we ourselves are Jews by birth and not Gentile sinners. And he goes on into some more teaching. You know what you don't see is Peter's reaction. Now, a lot of us would have trouble with this, and the tears would start to fall, and we'd be upset, and we wouldn't want to talk to Paul anymore. Can't believe that he embarrassed me. But there's a strong example of what Peter didn't say. Maybe he did, and it just wasn't recorded. But there's no reply, at least not worthy enough to be recorded here. There's no reply. And it took Paul a lot of courage to do this. This is how to react to being corrected. It takes a couple of things, at least. It takes honesty, first of all. Now, my wife knows, Laura knows good and well how I work after 20-some years now, going on 24. I got to get that number right. Going on 24 years now. She knows that when she comes to me and she disapproves of something or she doesn't like it, she's got to call me out. She knows the initial reaction is going to be anger. That's what I'm going to go to. It takes me a little bit to process it, and then usually I'll come back. One of my strengths is to be able to come back and say I was wrong and look at it honestly. And I have plenty of weaknesses in case you think I'm bragging here, but that's one of those things. And that's how a lot of us will react. But now, man, you just can't offend anybody. You can't hurt anybody's feelings. I'm going to quit church. I'm going to leave. I'm going to go over here. Whatever the case is, Peter doesn't react like that. This is how you handle being corrected or even criticism. There's no need to reply necessarily unless apology needs to be made. I would like to hope here that Peter made an apology, that he set it straight, that he set the example for Barnabas and these other people that were following along in this hypocrisy, that, you know what, this isn't right, and Paul's right for calling me out on this. So the next time somebody comes to you and corrects you, and they may not even do it in the right way, they may do it in a way that's arrogant. There's all kinds of wrong ways to do it. How will you respond? Will you be silent when you need to be? Will you accept the criticism? Will you be honest? Will you be open-minded to see that? And will you take that criticism and find out what you can learn from it so that you can be better? Because the whole goal is pleasing God, not looking good, not making sure everybody likes us necessarily, but making sure he's happy. And if I'm wrong and you call me out on it, how will I react? How will you react? Thank you for being here and being a subscriber to all those who support us. If you're not a subscriber to The Average Christian, you can hit the subscribe link below us. If you want to watch the last video that actually pertains to this one, you can click this one right here. If you want to watch a video that YouTube recommends that you might like, click this one over here. If you are listening on podcasts, subscribe, rate, and review so the word gets out about us. And for those on Facebook, for those on YouTube, comment, leave us some ideas, and help be a part of this as well.